Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jody. My husband David John and I have a small farm in the panhandle of North Idaho, and these are our stories and adventures. And some women get spoiled with jewelry and chocolates and flowers. I get those too, but David John went and got me some black gold. Let me show you what he got me. He got 3 cubic yards of this absolutely gorgeous garden soil. It's got a little bit of everything in it. It is so nice. So let me show you what I've done to prep a couple of the beds, because we're gonna start getting some stuff planted in the ground. So in this big bed over by the apple trees that last year I had my corn in, this year I have gone through and gotten it all cleaned up this morning in the rain and got an inch or so of that good soil on top, and the ground is just full of all different types of earthworms. So in this bed I'm going to be planting my potatoes this year, so that should give me a good decent amount of potatoes. And then the bed over here that last year we had the potatoes in, I'm going to plant the striped Chipiconia corn in. So got about 3 inches top dressed of that one. And like I said, worms, 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 lots of worms. And then this big bed over here at the end of the garden, which was down about 4 inches, got it filled up. The soaker hose laid back on that one, and in there I'm going to plant the blue Montana corn. And I know the corn's going to be way too close, so won't be able to save seeds from it. But I think having the corn there is just going to be a nice backdrop to the garden. And this patch of corn here will look really nice. So we've got to go into the seed shed and get the corn off the husk of the striped Chipiconia and show you the mess I got with my potatoes and get them cut up for planting later this week. So on the striped Chipiconia corn, I just last fall just saved the corn husks like this, pulled the leaves back and just left them out to dry. And in doing so, they're dried and cured, and A, they can be used as decoration, and B, you can just kind of do a twist and do this little twisting motion, and your kernels just pop right off the cob nice and easy. So go through and get these guys kind of taken off and into a bucket. But the blue Montana corn is seed that I saved from a couple years ago doing this same kind of method, and it's good and dry, so got lots of this to plant. So I'm going to go through, get these all taken off the cob, and then we'll look at the mess of the potatoes. So this should definitely give me enough corn to get planted, and no, we won't be planting all of this. So that gives me my corn that's ready to get planted a little later this week. Let me grab the box of potatoes. So obviously the potatoes are very ready to get planted in the ground. But you don't want to plant, like this potato, you don't want to plant it just like this into the ground, because you'd have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 plants right next to each other. So I'm going to go through and cut these guys down into smaller chunks so I can spread them out so they're not as close together. It's like this one, don't have to do anything with, just set them in the tray for later. So let's get some of these potatoes cut up. So that guy right there. This one I'm gonna cut into 2. And it's like this one's good just by itself. This one will be a little more interesting to cut up. So that gives me 5 potatoes. And one of the things they say is to just cut them and let them air dry, and this part here kind of scabs over. They're gonna have a couple days to dry a little bit. So go through, get this box cut up, and we'll be back to get these guys planted. Kiesel. Didn't realize Kiesel had the camera tilted. So this probably gives me way more potatoes than I actually have the space to plant, but it also gives me the opportunity to go through and pick and choose the best looking specimens to plant. So I'm going to kind of just lay them out here on my workspace here a little better than in this pile, and turn the fan on them, and next time I see you guys, we should be getting these guys planted in the ground. Well guys, on this absolutely gorgeous afternoon here in North Idaho in very early May, we're gonna get the corn planted. So in this bed over here, I'm going to do the Montana Blue corn, and you want to plant it about 1 inch deep, and they recommend about 1 foot apart. I'm kind of doing a staggered, so they're closer to about 10 inches apart. I think it's going to be fine, and I'm going to pop some sunflowers in there just for a couple bursts of color. So let's get this bed planted with corn. And normally with corn you would want to soak it overnight to rehydrate it, but we're due to get a really heavy rain in the next couple days, so I think it's going to be fine, plus the fact that it's right here by the duck pen, so I can easily water it every day. And I am going to start each hole with 3 kernels of corn, and as it grows I'll thin it probably down to 2. So like I said, about 1 inch down, and I did go through and kind of pre-mark this one. And I'm just grabbing 3 kernels and just popping them in for now, and I'll go back around and cover them just so I know where everything is. And then half of this bed I'm going to plant with the Sunflower Autumn Beauty, and the other half the Evening Sun. They both get roughly about 7 feet tall, so it should be a little taller than the corn. And I'm just going to pop a couple in just because we really love our sunflowers. And the sunflowers go about 1/2 inch into the soil. Now we'll go through and cover everything up, and we'll start the watering down of this bed. And it will probably take a couple times of watering this in to get it good and wet all the way down and through. And part of that is because the soil is dry itself. And that's another reason why I didn't pre-soak my seeds, because it's probably going to take me a day or two to really get this soil hydrated. and I didn't want the seeds to be super moist, go into dry soil. The dry soil pull the moisture out of the seeds, which the seeds have kind of started germinating and totally kill them. So it's kind of soaked in. I'm gonna give this another good soaking, and I'll meet you at the other bed to plant the Chapoconia corn. In this bed, it's got 100 feet of soaker hoses. I like the metal garden stakes, and I've got a bunch somewhere, I'm not sure where they're at, for holding the soaker hose in place. A lot of people use them for like landscape fabric, but they work great for holding your soaker hose in place. But this layout looks pretty good and will work really good because I can plant right along the soaker hose. So I'm going to start in the back, and I'm going to be doing 3 different types of sunflowers, and I'm going to plant them on the back, and that far side in the corners is going to be the Mongolian giant sunflower. This guy is supposed to get like 14 feet tall, and one of the points of planting him in the corners, that if he needs a little help being like tied up so he doesn't fall over because he's going to get so big, is I do have the T-posts and all else needed in this back one. I could add a T-post, but the other 2 are just traditional yellow sunflowers that I'll just spot in between the Mongolian giant just to get some yellow sunflower, and then the rest of this bed. So let's get this bed planted. And you saw I am using this piece of 1x4 just so I can get out here in this area to get it planted. Just kind of disperses my weight a little bit so I'm not making huge footprints and really disturbing everything. But now it's time to plant some corn. So now that I got all the seeds in, it's time to go through and water this guy really heavily. He wasn't as dry feeling as the other one was. I think it's because I added a lot more into this bed, but he still needs to get soaked down, and I'll probably wait until after this next rainstorm we're supposed to get. We're supposed to get like an inch and a half of rain in the next 2 days, so that will help soak this really good. And then I'll put the shavings over the top of it because, you know, Mother Nature doesn't like to be without her clothing on, and if you don't plant her, she will plant herself. So we'll be getting the shavings put on within the next couple days. So let's get this guy watered in. Got all my corn and some of the sunflowers planted. Hopefully tomorrow, by the time I get off, because I should be getting off early, I'll be able to get the potato bed planted, and part of the reason I didn't start there is the soaker hose for the potato bed. It's got a big old hole in it and it doesn't work, so it's an older hose and it's kind of hard repairing soaker hoses. They're such a pain to try to fix, so got to pick up a couple feet or 100 feet of soaker hose for the potato bed, so fingers crossed tomorrow we'll be planting potatoes. Well guys, there's 3 things I learned, because I grew up on the coast of Washington and notorious for its rain. 3 important life lessons I learned. 1, you make hay when the sun is shining, so when it's nice and warm for the 2 months that it's that way. Another lesson is you dress appropriately for the weather, hence a coat and a raincoat. And 2, if you wait till it's not raining, nothing's gonna get done. So on this lovely rainy day, gonna get these potatoes planted. And typically with potatoes, you dig a trough about 3 inches deep, place your potatoes, and then backfill over them. But because I do soaker hoses, I've got my soaker hose all laid out and pinned into place. So we will just go through and place the potatoes on top of the soil so we can get our placement figured out, and then we'll take the shovel and plant them in that way. So that way I don't have them growing up through the soaker hoses, and I know they're placed where they're going to get the most benefit of watering from the soaker hoses. And I did divide the potatoes up into white potatoes. I'm going to do 1/2 with, and the other half I'm going to do the baby red. So when you're placing them out, you typically want to go 3 foot and then a foot apart. If you want nice big potatoes, I'll probably space the white potatoes a little further apart than the reds, because I don't mind the little small ones, because they're great for in soups and everything. So I'm gonna just, like I said, we're gonna place them and then do offset staggered placement. And you want to do the scabbed side down and the growth up. So there's the placement of the whites as the rain really starts coming down. So let's get these guys dug in. And like I said, you want to plant them about 3 inches deep. This shovel's really cool because it's got the 3-inch mark. And you want to place them scab side down. And then gently cover them. And we will be watering these in a little bit. Well, that got the potato bed all filled up and covered with shavings. Looks nice and neat. Well guys, this is where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you have a good day and a good week. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And we'll see you next week for the next installment of this adventure of Moose Flats Farm. Bye for now.